Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Bava Metzia daf Yud Gimel. We are going to begin on Yud Beis Amud Beis by the new Mishnah. Says the Masnisim, Matzah Shtari Chayiv. Let's say you found a document which claims that monies are owed. So Imish behen achrayis nechasim. If we're dealing with, as Rashi says, shibud karkois, shigma mehen, that there's a lien on this lo yachser, then you should not give back this document that you found. Shebeis din nifroin mehen, because Beis Din will actually use this as a valid document to the point that people are going to end up collecting land from this. Ein behen achrayas nechasim yachser. However, if the document does not have achrayas nechasim, which means that you cannot collect encumbered properties on this, then yachser, you can always give it back. Shein beis nifroin mehen divrei Meir. So Rameir makes a distinction. We'll have to understand the svara of Rameir between a shtar in which has upon it achrayas nechasim or ein behen achrayas nechasim, whether you can return this document or not. However, the Chachamim oimrim bein kach uvein kach lo yachser b'nei shebeis din nifroin mehen. For some reason, the Chachamim hold even when it comes to a shtar chov, in which does not have achrayas nechasim, nonetheless you still can't give it back because you can still collect land from it. And we're going to see, according to one shot, is because the Chachamim hold that when it comes to achrayas, that's tos soifer, which really means that even if it wasn't written in the document, it's still going to be considered to be strong enough to be able to collect from such lands. There will still be a lien on properties that you'll be able to collect from them. And therefore, according to the Chachamim, there's no distinction whether it's written or not, because really it should have been written, but if the Sefer didn't write it, it's not because it means it cannot be used to collect, because according to the Chachamim, achrayas is Tay Sefer. So now the Gemara is going to try to understand this a little bit better. But Maya Skinan, what exactly is this case of finding this shtar? Are we talking about a situation, as Rashi says, Shahalove Moida Shishtarin Parua? The borrower says, "Oh yeah, I do owe money." So in this situation, the lova, the borrower, is admitting that he still owes him money. So if that's the case, then what's the problem? What's the difference? Let it be given back regardless, because after all, there's no one arguing. The lova is saying, yes, it's true, it's a valid document, I owe him money. So because if the lova does not agree, and he says this is not true, I owe no money, so why would we allow this type of a document to be given? Now, Nehi granted the loy gavim mishubadi. I understand that you won't be able to collect from the chas mishubadim, but mimni chari mikva gavi. But you can still collect from unencumbered properties, lands which have no lien on them. So if it's, again, a situation where the lova is contesting the validity of the shtar, so then why would we say that you should give it back if there's no achrayas nechasim alav? It doesn't make any sense. The lova doesn't agree to it. So mamanav shach, it's hard to understand what's the case. So Gemara is going to give a few answers. And we start off with really, we're talking about a situation where the lova admits to the fact, yes, I still owe the money. So if he owes the money, so then we should always say, should always go back. Here is the reason why we make a distinction between achrayas nechasim and not achrayas nechasim. The chayshin, we have a concern. Maybe the document was written in a manner that it says that the monies were borrowed in Nisan, v'lo at Tishrei. So even though they were supposed to borrow money, let's call it in April, instead the actual loan didn't take place until Tishrei. Now you end up having a document, though, that says that this person has an obligation to pay back a loan which took place already back in Nisan. The problem is that what happened in between the months of Nisan and Tishrei, those transactions, there really should not be any lien on those properties because the loan didn't actually take place until Tishrei. But the document says Nissan, and therefore, because of that, we have this concern. Therefore, we don't want to give it back when it has connection of Achrayas Nechasim. So Yihachi Kol Shtari de Asula Kama Nechash Luhu Hachi. If you have this chash that it was written months before the actual loan took place, why by this document? It's by all documents you should have that same concern, but we don't have that concern. So why would you have it over here? So he says this is the reason, because Kol Shtari Lo Rie. When it comes to all documents, there's no need to be led to suspicion. Bahani Rie. However, this particular document, there is an element of reason to be more suspicious about it. Why? So Rashi says, Hoyaba Nafal, since this is not a properly held document, it was found as it fell on the ground, Itra. So now there's an element of suspicion. If it was a real good star, then why would it have just been found in the middle of the street? It must be that maybe there's not such a valid star. It already has problems. So therefore, a star which already has some element of confusion as to the validity of it, at this point, we're going to be even more concerned that this may have happened as well. Elahaditanan. We learn in Bava Basra, Kaisin Shtar Laloiva, a person is allowed to write a star to a borrower, Alvabi Shein Malva Imo, even if the lender is not present. Question is, how could we allow a star to be written not in the presence of the lender? After all, if the malva is not there, the one who has the money to lend, so then maybe they'll have written this document. Why would we allow the malva not to be present? You would want the malva to be present so that the moment that the star was written, the malva, the lender, would lend the money. So how could we allow this? So Amar Rav Asi, as we continue to Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, Bishtari Hakna. We're talking about Shtari Hakna. Daha Shaibid Nafshe. What is Shtari Hakna? Says Rashi, Shemachna lo nechasav mehayoim. Bein yilve, bein lo yilve, yigva mehen lo oiso zman mehayoim. So it's a special type of a star called a Shtar Hakna, that the moment that the star is written, there's already an automatic obligation, even if the loan did not take place. This is going to be part of TA 29. So one answer is if it's a Shtari Hakna, as we said. So this is a special type of a document that we say it's Chal Mehayoim. Okay. That's going to be one answer. Weiter. So Yehachi Masnisan Dekatani, our Mishnah that said, Im Yesh Behen Achrayas Nechasim Lo Yachzer. So when it comes to a star which you found, which has, again, Achrayas Nechasim connected to it, there's a lien on it, then you should not give it back to them. V'okimnon, we establish Kishchai Moida, that what's the reason why? Even though the Lova does admit to it that he in fact still does owe money, the problem is, so my lo yachzer, why don't we still allow it to be given back? Next, let's see, if we're dealing with this special type of star which you just introduced to us, then it doesn't matter, even if the loan didn't actually get into his hands, doesn't matter. He was still Meshabed himself right now. So if we're dealing with a Shtar Hakna, so then there's no need to have that Chash. Ibishtar Delo Hakna, if it's not a Shtar Hakna, a regular star, Lekel Mechash, the Amrit Ki Lekel Malva Bahadei Lo Kasvinan. We said that it will never be written without the presence of the Malva. So Mamanashach, again, doesn't make sense. The only time we will never allow a star to be written not in the presence of the Malva, unless it's a Shtar Hakna. So if we're dealing with a situation where the Lova admits to everything, so if we're dealing with a Shtar Hakna, so then that's the only possibility that it could have been written. But if otherwise, if it wasn't a Shtar Hakna, then the Malva had to have been there. So Amali Ravasi, Afagad the Shtar the Lav Hakna, even though a star may not be a star hakna, kileka malva b'hadeu kasvinan, and when there's no malva there, we're not going to write it. Masnisan kivan de nafal itrole v'chayshinan dilma ikri b'kosov. Maybe here it was written. Again, this is not a normal situation, and since the star was found on the ground, it gives us doubts if things were done properly. So therefore, it's possible that it may have been written in this situation improperly, not in the presence of the malva, even though normally that would only take place in the event that you have a shtar hakna. Abai gives a second interpretation, and this is actually going to be another answer for question TA29, that it could be done even not in the presence of the malva, if Edav b'chasumov zachin lo, v'afilu shtari delav hakna. So this is another answer that's being presented. So let's look at Rashi. Haditnan koisvin star l'loiva below malva. When we said it's possible that a document can be written with not in the presence of the lender, even when it comes to a star which is not a star hakna, there's one other possibility, and which is this: v'inami asal mitra of ha'idna v'hu lova atishrei lo shlo kedinhu de'eda b'chasum of zachin lo mahayoim, because we focus on the witnesses that signed it, and since they signed it from the day shechasumu zachin lo hashibud. And Rashi says v'afil lo hilva hamois on Tishrei. Even if you didn't lend the money until Tishrei, it doesn't matter, because we look at the chasimois, the signatures of the Edom, and therefore it's based on the time that the Edom signed it. That's when we're going to say that the shtar there's a shibud on it. V'afil shtar b'lav hakna. Mishum de kashale, because you could otherwise present the following difficulty: to amrit b'shtar b'lav hakna. That if we're dealing with any other case where it's not a shtar hakna, that we would never write such a document not in the presence of the lender. He says then we should not be concerned that maybe it was written this way. So, and therefore, he doesn't believe that this is necessarily even a possibility that this could have happened. El haditnan, but yet we did learn. Matzah giti nashim. Let's say you found a woman's get, shkuri avadim, an emancipation proclamation for slaves, daiteke, which is some form of a command of a person who is dying. Rashi says savoy shchimira, matana, a gift, which is a gift of a healthy person. V'shovarim. Let's say you found receipts. Harizel lo yachzer. So it says that you should not return any of these things. Shemek subam hayu, maybe they were written, however, the person changed their mind and was not given. So just because you found a get doesn't mean that you should give it to the wife, because maybe the husband wrote the get, for example, but never actually gave it to his wife. For that matter, for everything else. I don't understand. What difference does it make, even if he changes his mind? It doesn't matter if he changes his mind. Once we already have Adam that signed on it, that should be it. We should say it's chal, the way it is. So in that situation, we should say that his changing his mind doesn't help anyway. That's only in the situation where it actually reached their hands. Says Rashi, even if it was after some time, once it was given over eventually, let's say in Tishrei, but since it was actually given, so therefore we say since there was signatures on it, so therefore we say it's chal from the time of the signatures. There's a shibud from the time of the signatures, so it doesn't become a problem. So therefore that's how we explain it. So this whole case of why a person, we say lo yachzer, is because he may be nimlach, is because he may, as it says, shalo litnam, he may not have actually given it. However, in our case, when it was given, so we go buster the aid of b'chasumov. Okay, so in this Rashi asks a side but important question. We know that there's a concept that shtari chayiv hamukdamim psulin v'hamuchrarim ksherin. So if you write a shtar mukdam, in other words, you write the date which predates the actual loan. So if I'm giving out a loan here in March 2024, but I write that it's January 2024, that's puzzle, because again, for the same reason, there could be some transactions that took place between January and March, and there's really no shibud on that because the loan didn't take place. So that's the reason why we say a shtar mukdam is puzzle. So we ask the kasha, b'may moiki la Abaye, how does he understand a case of shtar mukdam? Because according to Abaye, he just said that when it comes to the Adam that are signed on it, that's it. We go buster that. So it shouldn't make any difference that there was that was given later on. So why do we say, and how could we ever have a case of a shtar mukdam? So Rashi gives a couple of answers. L'hachi psulin. Actually, let's see this. So b'may mukim l'Abaye b'teretz b'mukdemes ksivasan l'chasimasan. So yeah, it's at the time of the chasimas. But what if it was written, but it wasn't signed yet, and then it was signed later on? That is a case of a shtar mukdam. Also, l'hachi psulin shabo litroif mishas ksiva, and therefore it's possible because they're going to start collecting it from the time it was written, when according to this shita, it's at the time of the signatures. Inami shekasu v'chasumu b'tishrei. It was all written and signed in Tishrei. V'hem kasu b'socho Nisan shehu Rosh Hashanah l'shtaros. But they actually wrote the wrong date. They said it was done in Nisan. It was really written and signed in Tishrei, but they wrote that it was written earlier, but it really wasn't. Okay. So this again is this will be question 20. This is question 1 actually. So again, either that the ksiv and the chasima were not at the same time, or the ksiv and the chasima were at the same time, but you wrote it earlier. That was question 1, and it's also TB 30. Wasn't that right? Haksiva koidem l'chasima. It's not exactly the right answer. Kaisa b'tishrei v'lo haya al nisan. Okay, I try my best on it. Sometimes maybe at the end of your 30 blot, some of the dafim are a little bit harder. It's a hard daf, so okay. I'm not sure if that was marked correct at all. Okay, weiter. So, I know that's a very important Rashi, though. Okay. So we make a distinction whether or not it was given or not. El masnisa nikatani matzah shtar chayiv. When it says that you found a shtar chayiv, im yesh behem acharas nachasim lo yaser, don't give it back. Vokimna k'shechai moide. And we said we're talking about a case where the lov admits that he still owes the money. So why shouldn't you give it back? Mishum shemek sav livos b'nisan l'leivel ad tishrei. Now bishul merav asi di'amer b'shtari akniasa. So we said that we were dealing with a shtar hakna. So according to Rav Asi, that works right away. So what's the problem? Our concern is our Mishnah is a case where it's not a shtar hakna, and therefore the shibud was not right away. It could amrinan, and like that which we said, according to him, who says the reason why you can collect, you could write a document, even not in the presence of the malva, is in a situation where the witnesses themselves sign, and therefore that will be the time of the shibud. So my ikla meimar, how do you understand our Mishnah? So the reason why we don't want you to be able to give it, because according to him, if it's talking about it's all totally in the chasimas, so then you should be able to give it back. So what's the reason why you shouldn't be able to give it back? Is we're afraid that in fact it was paid back, but there may be some conspiracy between the lova and the malva, a form of subterfuge. Says Rashi, Shema paroi, maybe it was paid back. Umin haloivin nafel, and it actually fell from the hands of the borrower. V'hadika moida lo parati. The reason why he says he maybe said I didn't pay. Eitza hi b'neihem. This is an eitza shel ramois. Litro fesel kucho shalakhu mimenu karka shalo b'achrayis v'yachalku b'neihem. It's actually a brilliant thing. So you have a document that's $1 million, and the lov will say no. He'll say I never paid it back. I did not pay it back. But he says cheshchai moida. I do owe him. But what ends up happening is because there is a lien on this property, so they're going to take away this person's land. And then the malva, after he takes the person's land, he's going to give the lov a commission. He's going to give him some money for this whole subterfuge. So this is another potential reason to be concerned. Question 2. Matzah shtar chayiv. So one is, we said Shema Akri v'kasu b'Nisan. It was written in Nisan v'loivad Tishrei v'asel mitra v'kucha shlokadin, or chashin lepiroyin l'kanunya. Okay, so those are the two potential answers to this question. Okay, fine. All right, that may be the last question on this daf. Okay, let's go weiter. Shmuel, the Amr lo chashin lepiroyin l'kanunya. Now Shmuel holds he's not concerned of conspiracy. So how will you understand him? So Hanicha Isavril Ravasi Diamar Mishtar Hakna Moikamastis Mishtar Love Hakna. If he holds like Rav Asi that we're talking about in a situation where the malva does not have to be present, is when the lova has accepted upon himself a shtar hakna. Therefore, again, it's going to be kaina. There's going to be a shibud immediately from today. And therefore, our Mishnah, the concern is maybe it's not a shtar hakna. If he actually holds like the other reason is that the whole point of what a malva does not have to be present is when there's witnesses signed. So Michael Maymar, because how would he understand the Mishnah if he doesn't hold? Because as we see, he's not chayash lepur on the kanunya. So Shmuel Michael Masnisin Kashin Chay Moida. So either, of course, he could hold a Gravasi, or he's going to say the lova does not admit. The lova says, no, it's not true. I do not owe any money. Understand, as we said, gavi min mishubadi. If we're dealing with a document which does not have a connection of a lien, but still you can still collect from b'nei chayrin. So why would we still give it back, especially if the lova doesn't admit to it? So Shmuel Tamei Yom Shmuel Armahay Rameir Shtar Chayiv Shein Bo Achrayis Nechasim. When it comes to the shtarcha, which is not achrayas nechasim, ein gaiva lo mishibadi lo b'nei chayri. Actually, you can't even collect from b'nei chayrin. The chimi yachashin gaiva, if you can't collect, my yachser. What's the whole purpose of giving it back? It's worthless. You can't use it. That's not true. You could use it for something. You can use it because right now it's being used as a bottle stop or some paperweight or something for the malva. So then now he's able to use this like a bottle stop or some medial purpose. But you're right. According to him, you cannot collect even from b'nei chayrin. As we continue to Gimel Medbeis, lo haydabar ma'olim. The loiva says, hadam. He says that I don't owe you anything, and therefore, in that situation, we'll give it back because you can't collect from it. Okay. Omer Rebbe Lezer. So now Rebbe Lezer has a different piece. He says, machlokis, the whole machlokis is b'shein chayv moida. Is only in a situation where the lova does not admit. So therefore, who cares? Just you can give it back to him. Rabbanan Savri Mishibadi Hudaloi Gavi Mimichari Migva Gavi. So therefore, according to him, because there's b'nei chayrin can be collected, so therefore we don't want that to be given back either. However, if you hold that the wolf admits, then everyone holds you should give it back because we're not chayash l'peroin l'kanunya. We're not concerned of this subterfuge, this conspiracy. Rabbi Yochanan machlokas is k'shchay moida. So no. Rabbi Lezer says the machlokas is k'shein chay moida. No, according to Rabbi Yochanan, he holds actually the machlokas is k'shchay moida when the loive admits that he still owes the money. The Rameir Savar Star Shein Bo Achras Nachasim Mimishibadi Hudu Gavel Minichari Migvagavi, and therefore you can't use that because it can still be collected. Rabbanan Savar Mishibadi Nami Gavi, you can collect even from Mishubadim. Okay, therefore we don't want to give it back. However, when the loiva doesn't admit, everyone's chayshli piroyan that it was paid back. And of Kanunya. Tani Gavas Rav Yochanan l'tiyavta Rabbi Lezer. Bechada. There's going to be a support to Rav Yochanan, which is what we said. The whole machlokas is only kashchai moide. However, and we're going to see this will be a question of Rabbi Lezer, who says the machlokas kashein chai moide. L'tiyavta de Shmuel betarti. And there'll be a tiyavta on the shita Shmuel in 2 points. Shmuel, who again said the Mishnah is Kishein Chai Moida, and Shmuel holds that when it comes to Shtar Chov Shimbo Achrayis, you cannot even collect from B'nei Chayrit. Okay, so let's see. Tani was the Rav Yochanan, Tani Kavasim. Fine. Tani was the Rav Yochanan, Tiyuf the Rabbi Lezer. Bechad the Tiyuf the Shmuel Batarti. Matzah Shtari Chayiv. Let's see, you found a document. V'yesh behen Achrayis Nechasim. And it has Achrayis Nechasim. So, Aval Pisha Shnei Moedim. Even in a situation where everyone admits, in other words, we're talking about Kishachai Moeda, Lo Yachser, Lo Zev Lo Zeh, then you should not give it back. Ein behen Achrayis Nechasim. So, if there's no Achrayis Nechasim, is much, Aloy Moeda, in a time when the wolf admits that he still owes the money, Yachser Lo Malva, give it back. Ein Lo Haloy Moeda, Lo Yachser Lo Zev Lo Zeh Divrei Meir. Shahay Rameir Oimer Shtar Sheish Behem Achrayis Nechasim. When it comes to Shtar Sheish Behem Achrayis Nechasim, Gavim Nechasim Mishubadim. However, Shein Behem Achrayis Nechasim, Gavim Nechasim B'nei Chayrin, you can actually still collect from B'nei Chayrin. So what do we see? This is like Rav Yochanan, because this is saying that the machlokus is kishchai moida. There's a situation where the wolf admits, and therefore tiyufta Rabbi Lezer b'chada. This is a tiyufta on Rabbi Lezer, who says the machlokus is kishein chai moida. However, in a situation where kishchai moida, everyone holds that you could give it back, and we're not chayish l'piroyin, where we just said over here that it's not the case, and we should be maybe concerned that there is some subterfuge. So, what is the tiyufta Rabbi Lezer b'chad? The Yomi Rab Meir Shtar Shein Bo Achrayis Nechasim Ein Goyvim Nechasim Mishubadim V'lo Nechasim B'nei Chayrin, can't collect from anything. V'kamer Ben Ramein Rabbanan Lo Chayish L'Kanunya, and we're not chayish L'Kanunya. U'Brayis HaKatani. However, the Brisa says Shtar Shein Bo Achrayis Nechasim Mishubadim Hu D'Lo Gavi. B'nei Chayrin Migva Gavi, you could collect. V'Katani Ben Rameir Ben Rabbanan Chayish L'Kanunya. And they both are concerned of the subterfuge. How do we see this? That even though they both admit, so what's the problem? If the lob admits, because we're chayshli parayin. Why? Why can't you give it back? Must be the reason why you can't give it back is because we're chayshli kanunya. Because we're concerned that, again, that they're going to do this trick, and the lob will say, "Oh yeah, I owe you money," but you'll end up taking the land, and then the malva will end up giving them a commission to the lova. V'hahani tarti, who, when it comes to these two, chadahu, what do you mean? It's really one of the same. Since Rash says the Gemara in top of Yudal, the chad tamhu, it's one reason. Because when Rabbi Lezer said that the whole machlokus is when the lova does not admit, hu mataritz hachi, tiyufta de Shmuel betarti. Chada Rabbi Lezer, the Hamoikim Astistim Hishin Chai Moida, Chada the Yermer Shmuel Also, one by Shmuel, Matzah Shtar Hakna B'Shuk. If you find the star, Yachzol Bam, you can give it back. Because when it comes to a Shtar Hakna, it works right away. So Tiyofta, the Gatani Hacha, Abu B'Shishne Moedim, it says even if they both admit, there's a machlokas. However, according to Rabbi Lezer, he says, Kishachai Moide, Divri HaKol Yachzer, that because we're not concerned of Piroyan. But over here we see we are concerned of Piroyan. So again, according to Rabbi Lezer, he holds that everyone says that you could give it back when the Lova admits, because we're not chayish le'proyin l'kanyunya. But over here, clearly we say that we are chayish le'proyin l'kanyunya, and therefore that's why it would be a tiyofta on him. Possibly TA30. Matzah shtar chayim im yeshba achras nachasam l'yaser l'may cheshinan. Either, okay, we only have two answers so far. O lichta livus v'loiva at Tishrei, O le'piroyin l'kanyunya ad kan.